entry number 412. Grain depth 11 feet 3 inches. Days scratched into the support beam beneath bin marker E 3281. The rope is now 19 feet shorter than it was when he started measuring it. That is where the file begins. No introduction, no badge number, just a notebook, swollen with moisture damage, opened to a page near its middle by an investigator who did not want to touch it any further than necessary. The subject was named before he was designated. His name was Colton Marsh Whitfield, 34 years old, a seasonal grain hand working the Baird County Elevator Complex outside a town small enough that its missing persons report was typed by the same deputy who later helped search for him. He was last seen on the evening of October the 9th, walking towards Silo Row C, carrying a flashlight and a canvas sack of tools. He did not report for the morning shift. His truck was still in the lot. Search teams worked the property for 11 days. The working theory, entered into the county record, was that he had fallen into a grain bin and been pulled under by the flowing corn, a death recognized by anyone who has worked a harvest. Sudden and silent, and nearly impossible to survive. The search was called off on October the 20th. No body was recovered. The file was marked closed, presumed deceased, and forgotten for 9 years. In the 9th year, the complex was purchased by an agricultural holding company preparing the site for demolition. A 3-man maintenance crew was sent to clear a row of silos that had not been used since before the disappearance. Bins that, according to the original blueprints filed with the county, should have been fully sealed and structurally independent of one another. Inside Silo E, wedged into a gap behind a support beam, one worker found a spiral notebook swollen to nearly twice its natural thickness, its pages fused at the edges by 9 years of trapped moisture. That worker is the one who called it in. He is also the one whose contact information, as of this recording, no longer connects to a working number. The notebook was catalogued as Object Recovery 441 and sent to a private document lab before it ever reached investigators. That is where the file becomes something the channel is obligated to treat with complete seriousness. Handwriting analysis confirmed the entries span the full 9 years, written by a single author, Colton Whitfield, matched against payroll signatures on file with the elevator company. But the hand does not stay the same. The earliest entries, dated within the first 2 weeks, are legible, controlled, written in standard cursive with proper margins. By entry 60, the letters have started leaning backward. By entry 100, words are missing their vowels entirely, as though he had stopped needing them to understand himself. And somewhere near entry 200, the grammar reorganizes into something the analysts described in their own written notes as internally consistent, but not derived from any dialect on record. Sentences that function, that communicate, but that follow no rule any of them recognized. Entry 6 read, "Counted the kernels in my left hand 3 times, same number each time. That should not be possible with a closed fist. I'm starting to write these down." Entry 41 read, "The auger motor on the north side runs every 6 hours, near as I can tell. I mark the day when it starts and stops. It has become the only clock I trust." Entry 93 read, Flashlight down to 11 minutes of charge by my count. I have stopped using it except to check the beam marks. I do not think I need it the way I did. Subscribe. The file gains a new entry every week, and this one, notably, has never stopped adding its own. Somewhere past entry 250, a second hand appears in the margins. It is not Whitfield's. The lab confirmed this immediately. Different pressure, different slant, an entirely different pen, in ink that chemically dates later than the surrounding page. It does not simply annotate, it responds. Beside an entry where Whitfield writes, "I think I have been walking in a circle for 4 days." The second hand has written in small, careful print, "You have not. You have been walking correctly for the first time." What follows across the next several hundred entries is not a man's continued suffering. It is a documented adaptation described in Whitfield's own increasingly reorganized language. He writes of learning to hold his breath and move forward into a bin of standing grain, the way another man might wade into a lake, not fighting the corn's pull downward, but tilting with it, letting it carry him at an angle instead of straight down. He describes discovering that the grain itself behaves differently past a certain depth, no longer settling by gravity alone. He writes of finding a seam between silo E and silo C. Bins the original architectural filings list as 30 feet apart with solid earth and concrete between them, and of learning the sound that opens it. 3 taps against the steel wall, a full 10 seconds of silence, then one final tap. He describes hearing this same pattern answered from the other side, before he had ever learned it himself. Was he taught, or did he simply arrive at the only rule the place has ever obeyed? The file contains 3 corroborating incidents. In year 4, a grain inspector named Dolores Pruitt, sent to certify the empty bins for insurance purposes, filed an internal complaint stating she had heard a distinct 3-tap, pause, 1-tap pattern coming from inside a silo, verified as sealed and empty. She requested a transfer to a different county office within the month and has declined every subsequent request for comment. In year 6, a cadaver dog brought in during a routine unrelated search refused to cross the threshold of Silo C, planting itself and refusing every command, and was ultimately retired from service after the handler reported it would no longer enter any enclosed crane structure. And in year 9, one of the 3 maintenance workers who found the notebook, the same man now unreachable by phone, told his supervisor, in a statement recorded before he stopped responding entirely, that he heard tapping from inside Silo E while carrying the notebook out to the truck, and that it was 3 taps, a pause, and 1 tap. The complex has since been sold twice more. The silos in question were structurally modified during a renovation attempt that was abandoned midway for reasons the new owners have declined to specify. Colton Whitfield remains, officially, an unresolved missing person. The final third of the notebook no longer addresses solitude. Entry 801 reads, "Not alone here anymore. Others came down after me. I do not think they meant to. I do not think I did either. No other missing persons case in the county, the state, or any adjoining jurisdiction has ever been matched to these later entries. No names are given. And here is the detail the lab flagged twice in writing before declining further involvement with the file. The notebook was catalogued, sealed, and placed into evidence storage on a confirmed date. Ink and paper analysis on the final 6 pages date their creation to nearly 2 years after that storage date, after the object had already been logged, photographed, and shelved inside a climate-controlled facility that no one has reported entering. The final entry carries no number. It is written entirely in the second hand. It reads, "You have been reading this in a room with the door closed. Go and check that it still is.